Yeah.
All right. Good. Holy smoke. We're getting comfortable here. Hey, folks, welcome to another Friday edition of Ghost Town Politics, the political nooner, we call it, because, you know, it's 12 noon, kind of, 11:59, close enough. Good enough for us. And I'm so glad to have Blake back with me. I've got all my little X platform quotable quotes. I'll take potent potables for 500, Alex. And so I got a bunch of stuff lined up for us. Very interesting. The thumbnail today, I pictured like, JD kicking Canada around. So I said, make a soccer ball and put Canada on there. And, JD telling us where it's what. I actually pinned the comment to my own timeline. But so there's so much stuff going on. Okay, I got Clinton's here.
Yeah.
I guess one of the fun ones we can do is, because the Epstein, and we are already saying it, that they're going to find out. They're going to find out that this is a massive mistake on the Dems' parts. To get Trump signed off on it. This is a big news. Trump signed off, said, go ahead, have fun. I hope you choke on it, right? He's okay. Yeah. And so now it's in the hands of the Department of Justice. They can release it. But this is kind of a funny clip. There's a number of them around. Okay, was this the one I want? Let me take a look. Yeah, okay. It's got this little character here. Okay, let's see how we do. Okay, Stephen A. Smith is starting to realize. Is that big enough, Blake, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it'd be probably bigger in the screen for everybody else, but
yeah, let me take a quick gander, make sure it's big enough. Oh yeah, I can make it maybe a bit. Whatever. We're going to go big on the video. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Stephen Smith started to realize Donald Trump set a trap for the Dems with the Epstein files. He did something I didn't see coming, says the guy. And I got a letter. He wouldn't release it if it's going to hurt him. Dare I say he's got something on other people? Let's play the clip.
That is who we know him to be. He did something that I didn't see coming. He said, to hell with it, open the files. I'll sign to open the files. No problem. And the first words that came to my mind was, uh-oh. Because Donald Trump is not going to do that. If it's going to be something that significantly hurts Donald Trump, he's going to do it if, dare I say, he's got something on other people. Because that is who we know him to be, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it is. There's no way around this. He did something that I didn't see coming. He said, to hell with it, open the files. I'll sign to open the files. No problem. And the first words that came to my mind was, uh-oh.
Uh-oh. So what do you think, Blake? What do you think of that comment from that little clip?
Well, I think what's happened here is the Democrats were throwing hand grenades, but Trump pulled the pins and threw them back. So there you go, boys. You wanted it. You're getting it. Full tilt.
It's crazy. Now, caught up in all this, like, of course, are everyone's favorite couple, Bill and Hillary. Anna Paulina Luna, do it, Jamie. Contempt of Congress equals jail time. Remember, of course, Steve Bannon was thrown in jail for contempt of Congress. I would have gone too. I said, screw you. I'm not, playing with your little kangaroo court. Do it, Jamie. Contempt of Congress, jail time. Representative James Comer, Democrats and Republicans approved subpoenas in July for Bill and Hillary Clinton. After good faith efforts to schedule depositions, further delays aren't acceptable. Given their Epstein files, avoiding Congress would be in the in blah 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 interest. And then let's see if we got this. Now let's see. Have you got a nice picture of the Clinton, Sarah Blake? Yes, we.
That's a good picture of Billary.
Aren't they lovely? Just in, Bill and Hillary Clinton are officially facing contempt of Congress proceedings if they refuse depositions next month for their ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Representative Comer, James Comer, further delays are not acceptable given the Epstein ties. Avoiding Congress would be in defiance of subpoenas and will warrant contempt proceedings. and will warrant time in the big house.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah,
well, I was just going to say. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
No, well, I'm just saying, rules for thee, not for me. Come
Yeah.
on, man. If Bannon could go to jail, then at the very least Hillary can go. If Bill's claiming some sort of presidential immunity, well, Hillary was never president, so that'll do. Okay.
Well, I guarantee that you're going to start seeing rolling out from all these people serious medical concerns that are going to be coming out, so that they can start blaming of early dementia, Alzheimer's, heart conditions. You watch the list of why they can't show up, and all of a sudden they're invalids, sitting shaking in a corner, because they'll be looking for every excuse not to show up now.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, things are heating up. Things are definitely heating up. Now, one of the there's a lot of unintentional humor with all this. Like, this was kind of funny. Yeah. Okay, we got that. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm getting right up to the right one. Yeah.
Venezuela.
We got it all going. Okay.
We got a guy from Venezuela here.
We love Venezuela. Eric Daughtry, brutal moment as Representative James Comer goes on the House floor and reads the entire email where Hakeem Jeffrey's team begged Jeffrey Epstein for money. Let's read it to Jeffrey Epstein. That's the real Jeffrey Epstein, of course, not Jasmine Crockett. We got the Jasmine Crockett clip. Don't worry about that, faithful. Let's go and see. Now, this is Hakeem Jeffries is running around saying, this is fake news. I never said anything. I don't know who Epstein is. I never met with. I don't know.
Nothing. I see nothing.
Yeah, it's doing a Schultz, Sergeant Schultz. Here we go, Blake. Here's the clip.
So let's read it to make sure. To Jeffrey Epstein, and that's the real Jeffrey Epstein, not Jasmine Crockett's Jeffrey Epstein. This is the real Jeffrey Epstein.
We'll get into that.
From Hakeem Jeffries' campaign. Dear Jeffrey, we are thrilled that we are working with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, one of the rising stars of the New York delegation, sometimes referred to as Brooklyn's Barack. Hakeem is committed to electing a Democrat majority in 2014 and is encouraging his friends to participate in a DCCC fundraising dinner with President Obama and Hakeem Jeffries. It ends with a number for Jeffrey Epstein to call to go to the dinner and, quote, get an opportunity to get to know Hakeem better.
Aww.
Here's the evidence. The email speaks for itself. The only stone cold liar in this debate is Hakeem Jeffries.
Hakeem!
So, Mr. Minority Leader, take a deep breath, chill out, stop lying, stop with the juvenile name calling, and own up to the fact that your campaign solicited campaign cash from Jeffrey Epstein.
So there it is. I mean, we've got the document. That's the problem for these Dems, is we've got the receipts. And when you have the receipts, it makes it a lot more difficult for their cause. Just a little statistic coming out. This is kind of interesting as well, Blake. Catcher, our good friend Catcher, I'll make it a little bigger here. The biggest backfire in history has begun. 89% of Jeffrey Epstein's political donations went to Democrats. 0% went to Donald Trump. Oops. So the Democrats are essentially foobarred. 90% Epstein, 89 0 went to Trump. So there's the man in question. So again, that's another inconvenient truth for their side. But probably the best quote of the week on all this comes from Jasmine Crockett, Blake. And so she appeared on CNN, and the comedy speaks for itself. You can't write it this good. It is absolutely hilarious. Here we go. Boom. Okay, let's get to the bottom of Trump signs Epstein files bill after he tried to kill it. CNN with the story. Here they are. They know everything. Here we go.
About Republicans taking money from a Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what you said.
who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly.
Excellent.
Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio.
You mentioned Lee Zeldin there. He's now a cabinet secretary. He responded and said it was actually Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, who's a doctor that doesn't have any relation to the convicted sex trafficker. Unfortunate for that doctor, but that is who donated to a prior campaign of his. Do you want to correct the record on the people that you...
Listen, I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein, just so that people understand when you make a donation, your picture is not there. And because they decided to spring this on us in real time, I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen, because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled, and that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein, unlike Republicans.
So
your team's not too bright.
So a Jeffrey Epstein, who's not the Jeffrey Epstein. Therefore, what you're saying, to even taking up time in the House to even talk about this, is an absolute waste of time, an absolute colossal waste of time. So absolutely pathetic effort to try and
deception is what it is.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying it's deception. That's what they were doing. They were deceptively using another Epstein to try and paint a narrative that didn't exist, and it backfired big time.
Holy shit! Yeah, I mean, so it's all coming out, and I think the big uh-oh moment is already started. It hasn't really it's going to snowball. This is just the beginning of things, but it's not going well for the Democrats already. Of course, we already talked about last episode with the texting that was going on in real time when Cohen, Trump's former lawyer, was, before the House Intelligence Committee. And what her name, Plaskett, was there, the Democrat rep. And she's going, what's this? And who's this? They go, oh, this is this. Ask him about this. And so the guy was Cohen was actually having to ask. She was just a proxy for the molester Epstein. Absolutely corrupt. And, so it's falling apart, and it's already fallen apart. There's no there. Trump's going to come up smelling like a rose. And the Dems are in increasing trouble, Blake, increasing trouble as a result. Let's turn our attention to Canada. We got some good news coming out of Canada for once. Bell laid off 700 people today. Elbows up. Let's take a look and see what's going on here in Canada. Holy smokes, Blake. Good news. 700 laid off. Elbows up.
In other business news, BCE, which owns us here at CTV News, confirming it has laid off nearly 700 people today. A spokesperson at Bell saying the reduction represents less than 2% of the workforce. It includes 650 management positions, along with 40 positions at Bell Media, which owns CTV News. Bell says the move affects non-unionized management positions and is part of its, quote, 3-year strategic plan focused on delivering sustainable growth across all business units.
Okay, so 700 laid off. Is that good news, Blake? What's happening?
As they said, 2% of their population, of their workforce is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this has anything to do with the economic aspects of Canada. Probably more tied to the fact that AI is completely going to be decimating those management positions. A lot of the white collar jobs are the ones that are going to get hit the hardest and are being hit the hardest with AI introductions, because a lot of those positions now are being managed by systems that are generated by AI. So that's the beginning phase, as you're starting to see these companies are going to be getting rid of dead weight. But I mean, I'm sure the elbows up crowd, because they're one of the elite companies, part of the Laurentian elite of Canada, that I'm sure that Mark Carney and his trillionaire asset management funds and their investments are going to pay off with the savings to ensure that their union pension fund money is being secured for the future. So elbows up, have fun. You just killed 700 jobs. But that's, again, this is Carney world now. We're under the control of asset managers in Canada.
Yeah, let's stick with Canada for a minute and go into our lead story. This is really, I mean, my God, Let me go to my own profile because I saved the article. I actually pinned it to my own channel here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rachel's Ghost VC out of Canada. X has rolled out your country of origin for, you can see it. You can't see what other people are, where they're coming from yet. That's got to be there. They're going to implement that. That's really important. So we know who we're talking to. And, you know, even if they're an alt, a fictitious name, like I'm not Rachel's Ghost, I'm Rachel Williams, but nonetheless, at least you can tell I'm in Canada, you know, and of course, anybody that watches the show, you can say I'm a real person and all that. But this is really interesting. Okay, so here it is. Let me share this one. Let me share this one. We'll see if we got it. Rachel Williams, there she is. Okay, Rachel Williams pinned the single most important thing any Canadian will read today. Do you agree with that, first of all, Blake? Is that the single most important thing we'll read, other than our Bibles?
It's right up at the top. Yep.
It's right up there. JD Vance is absolutely correct. Fire in the hole, a thumbs up. JD Vance, while I'm sure the causes are complicated, no nation has leaned more into diversity as our strength. We don't need a melting pot. We have a salad bowl immigration insanity than Canada. It has the highest foreign-born share of the population in the entire G7, and its living standard has stagnated. He goes on to say, this is just a graph I took, or an image. Michael A. Arrett goes, what happened in Canada will be studied by many historians and economists as the prime example of self-destruction of an otherwise prosperous nation after blindly following leftist ideology. We're moving along. And then there's a dip. Canada's living standards growth is even worse than what's happening in Britain. So, and I guess there's the UK, there's the US, and then there's Canada. The bottom here's Canada. Here's the US, and I guess the UK is doing the best standard of living right now. Or this is the US. I'm sorry, the US is top dog. US top dog. And there's the UK. And there's Canada. So good old USA under Donald Trump, praise God. JD Vance goes on, and with all due respect to my Canadian friends whose politics focus obsessively on the US, he's speaking to us, like, your stagnating living standards have nothing to do with Donald Trump or whatever bogeyman the CBC tells you to blame. The fault lies with your leadership elected by you. Okay, well, they didn't have my vote. There's no bloody way I voted for him. Neither did Blake, but nonetheless, a majority of Canadians did. What do you make of JD, the incredible Vice President of the United States comments?
I think he's just shining the mirror in the face of Canada. You know, Canada has got a bunch of desperate, far left lunatics running the country right now at all different levels of government. Our municipalities are infected by them. Our provincial politics are infected by them. Yeah. And of course, our federal politicians are infected by it. So this is, I believe, orchestrated. I mean, I don't believe this is by some accident of a bunch of dumb idiots who got elected who are neglecting their duties. This is, I think, purposely being brought in. We are the front line and center ground of all the WEF's plans. They've rolled it out for a decade starting with Trudeau in 2015, and all the damage that's been done through Canada to this level has all been run under the Liberals.
Now, hold on, Blake, one sec. Can Australia look at us and say, hang on, hold me fasters? And, you know, when they go and they show what a disaster, because they're in trouble too. They're bad.
It's the same people.
New Zealand is horrible too. I mean,
we know that the countries that are connected under the Five Eyes, specifically the ones tied to the British Empire, historically have that. We still look to the British Empire, the old British Empire, as part of our identity. Even though Trudeau came out in 2015 and basically stated that Canada, it was no longer a nation built on its own identity, that we're identityless by calling us a post-national state. We don't have an identity. anymore, that we're just a creature that exists in the world that anybody can exploit.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened. They came in to destroy the morale of the country. They wanted to denationalize the country so that these big multinational trillionaire asset managers funded by the unions, the public service union pension funds, to destroy what Canada is so that they could disrupt it and build it up into their control. This was a monopoly control play, and it's still ongoing today. I will dispute the election. I don't believe, and I think there's lots of evidence, just like what's happened in the US, that our voting systems have been manipulated in favor of these people who have been trying to take control and retain power through means that through foreign influence, CCP, WEF, European interests, and not for the interests of North Americans. And I think America broke free of that. Canada is showing the signs that they didn't, and we should have fought like mad. But I think, we're always a couple of years behind the United States. I think that's going to change. But the woke nonsense.
Here's the thing. The thing we don't have a Donald Trump. We don't have a leader in Canada right now that has the charisma, the power, and a lot of Trump about the man himself is there's a lot of charisma about the guy. He's just a lightning rod. Negatively for those that don't like him, but for us on our side, I love the guy, and it just he's amazing. Canada lacks that, and we really do need somebody. Hey, I like this one BC, and I like the lady Brophy or whatever her name is. I like her.
Yeah, there's two of them, Tara Armstrong, and I know what you're talking about. But yeah, the situation we have in Canada is that we are a fractured nation. We have been since the Constitution that Trudeau Sr. brought in 1982, the Constitution Act, which basically supplanted the original 1950s Bill of Rights that was brought in, which was a much stronger protection for individual rights by Diefenbaker. And Trudeau Sr. tanked that by bringing in the Constitution Act of 1982, which basically disconnected Canada from British Parliament and handed it into the hands of the bureaucrats in Ottawa, of which Quebec never signed off on. So we don't even have a united country under a united constitution. Quebec refused to sign the Constitution Act of 82. We're a fractured nation. We're easily manipulated because of those fractures, because united you stand, divided you fall. And that's the difference in America. Even some of the, not all the lefties in the US are not patriotic. There's a lot of patriotic Democrats that are, I would call blue dog Democrats that, love their country still. But they've got the same infection, not to the same level we have, but on the left, they have these woke insaniacs that want to tear down the Constitution. They never refer to the U.S. Constitution as a republic. They always say our democracy. Yeah. No, it's a constitutional republic. Get it right, folks. It's a constitutional republic. Democracy is only a tool within the U.S. Constitution and their republic. But Canada is so divided that we can be conquered by anybody. The only reason why Canada still stands today is because of the United States and the power of the United States and the benevolence of the United States. And yes, elbow, it's up, crowd. I'm going to get you freaked out. But if America wanted to invade or annex us, they could do it yesterday, and we couldn't do a thing about it. So you can scream and yell from your Twitter pages or your Blue Sky accounts with your purple hair. You're not going to change anything. But Canada is a wreck. We can't get a leader that can stand up for all of Canada because Canada is divided. It will never reconcile. It never has reconciled. We have to get to the point where the West says we want out. We don't want in. We're not united. We'll never be united. And the only way they create united aspects in Canada is simply by force. And essentially it's economic force. It's robbing from one group to give to another group. Yeah. And that's how Canada's maintained its existence since 1982. And even earlier, it's, kowtowing to the Quebec separatists. They don't want to be part of Canada, but they know it's a milk job. They could just continue to milk Canada with their lies that they want to separate. Well, let them go. Let the rest of the country decide where they want to go. We're a huge nation, landmass wise. We could be multiple countries like Europe if we wanted to be. But the point is, we do have leadership, but it's at a regional level, as you described, like in British Columbia, you like one BC, and you've got Daniel Smith is kind of playing both sides of the fence in the Alberta separatist movement, or independence movement is a better term for it.
She's a little milk toasty for me.
Well, she's trying. I mean, out of all the premiers, she's the best we got in Canada right now.
Yeah, which is sad, which is a sad commentary.
But we've got good leaders who are fighting to become leaders. It's just that I don't think Canada's electoral system is secure anymore. It's no longer can be trusted.
Yeah, under the current system, the Conservatives are never going to win again, and they're all co-opted anyway. Poilievre, he's no alternative. He's sitting around dressed up like an East Indian, running around, going.
Well, they call them the Bay Street bullies. They call the shots in Canada. It's like Canada's version of the Wall Street, but the Bay Street bullies in Toronto call all the shots. That's the Laurentian elites that run the country, and they're the ones that run the monopolies. They're the ones that control the supply management. They're the ones that are holding everybody back from being successful, being free, owning their property. They're the ones driving the land claims issues in British Columbia. They dumped their patsy candidate to destroy British Columbia like a David Eby. Yeah. But this is what they've done. They've opened the Pandora's box to blow it all up, and so that they can restructure it their way. And I think it's going to stop. It's going to come to, they think they're going to reconcile something, and they're not. It's all being used. Everything that's going across the woke, DEI nonsense, all of that crap. That was a vote we saw in our own provincial legislature that, again, they our crazy politicians decided to maintain it. Well, the rest of the world is leaving it way behind now. They're all leaving that crap. But no, we've got to be, they're entrenched in our country. And I think JD Vance, going back to JD, he is just calling out the facts. He doesn't have to sit there and he didn't insult Canadians. He just said, look at your record. You need to look internally of your problems. Don't focus on Trump. Trump didn't create any of these problems. We did it all to ourselves. And I think it's true. We've allowed some very dangerous people to take power, foreign influence people to take power, and they are driving this.
Yeah, well, Trudeau came in with the idea of the cultural mosaic, which America traditionally has a melting pot. You come as a Japanese, you come as a German, Ukrainian, a Russian, whatever the hell you are. You come in as one thing, but as soon as you come in there and you do the Pledge of Allegiance, you become an American. No more this, that, the other thing. And national state, when we're going to go into land claims in a sec again, because it's coming up again.
Well, it's all interrelated. So it's
all connected. So you've got this whole idea of the cultural mosaic, no national borders, post-national state. Well, when you have no borders, and Mondani, the New York mayor, the young kid, like this kid's 34 years old. He's the same age as your kid and my kid. He's a baby, he's a little baby comic.
Massive amount of experience in life.
Yeah, he's just a stupid kid. So this guy, this Mondani guy, is meeting with the president today, and the president is going to tell him where the buck stops and where he can get off, because he's in big trouble. He can't come through all the promises. Everybody, New Yorkers are waking up to the realization that all the shit he promised, we're going to have free stuff, is not going down. You're not going to have the free stuff you want, free buses, all the rest of it. And Hochul, the governor, is it Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York? She's saying, hey, we're already hemorrhaging enough in the state. We can't be giving more free stuff away there, Mom, Daddy.
Yeah, so apparently 700,000 people are going to leave.
And Trump already shut down New York. He's already cut federal funding because they aren't playing nice with ICE. Play nice with ICE, or it's going to cost you in your pocketbook. But this post-national state, no borders, all wrapped up in all this. Canada going down to hell, America rising to heaven, as America just voted today in the House to say no to socialism, to say no to communism, that it will never be allowed to thrive in the United States of America. That is not a Nancy Pelosi applause, a condescension. That is a rah-rah, absolutely well done. But Mom Donnie tried to play the Canadian kind of crap with Trump, and it's not going to work. I'm going to appeal to the World Court. I'm appealing to the World Criminal Court, so that if Vladimir Putin drops in on New York to go to the UN, we'll arrest him. Yeah, big talk, pal. How do you start a war with Russia? Arrest its leader.
Oh, they want to arrest Netanyahu too. So yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Okay, so what do we got here? Okay, so this is another one. We're going to do that, but this is the one story I want to do right now. So let's share this instead. Here we go. Okay, you see this here?
Yep.
The ideological buffoon, David Eby. This is the what do you call him? Our provincial. I want to say governor.
Our supreme leader.
This
of British Columbia.
We call them premiers. They're governors, basically. The premier of British Columbia has opened the Pandora box that, with any luck, will destroy Canada. Oh, please destroy Canada. I'm all for it. Now, Alaskan tribal nations are national. Okay, here we go. Alaskan tribal nation claiming rights to Canada's resource projects because they used Canada's northwest coast at some point in the past. It makes them Aboriginal peoples of Canada under the Constitution Act. Aboriginal, this is the language of it. And UN UNDRIP. Group of Alaskan tribal nations going to the BC Supreme Court to demand a seat at the table in Canadian resource development. So these aren't even Canadian, they're Americans, but they're going to tell us how to run our country because they can. Ottawa select as pivotal to economic development. The Alaskan groups argue that their historical use of what is now northwestern BC makes them Aboriginal peoples of Canada under the Constitution Act, saying that status should guarantee them the same rights to consultations Canadian Indigenous groups. Absolutely freaking unbelievable. Like, holy crap. Talk about opening a Pandora's box. Do they have a legal leg to stand on, Blake?
Yes, they do. Actually, they actually do have a leg to stand on, because if British Columbia and Canada is going to continue down this path, and that they're saying Aboriginal title precedes fee simple title and all crown title beforehand, or it's saying it equal status is what they're trying to state it.
Yes.
It means, but Aboriginal title precedes U.S. and British agreements. So even now, today, from my understanding, if you are Indigenous in North America, you don't go under the same scrutiny to cross a border. That especially if you're in nations, quote unquote, that were traditionally covered territories that were on both sides of the border today, you can cross without any kind of harassment.
I gotta get that, proof. Man. I gotta get, because it could come in handy in becoming an American eventually.
You just need a tribe in the U.S. to tell you have nation status within their group.
I got DNA. My DNA. I got cousins all over frickin' Coeur d'Alene tribe, Turtle Island. Can
exactly.
You Turtle
but
Island.
That's my point. But that's the point right there, is that it is cross-border. If you're going to go all the way back, then you've got the Okinawans who crossed a bunch of territory in eastern Washington and into British Columbia today. You've got, all the way over to Montana, all along the borders there. You've got the Treaty 8, Treaty 7, Treaty 6 nations, the Bloods, the Crow, the Blackfoot, and the different nations that cover around the Rocky Mountain regions.
Yeah.
They all have a piece of British Columbia as well. And so, and some of those cross border as well. So we've got,
they all did. The Sioux came in, Sitting Bull came up.
Oh yeah. I mean, the Sioux technically were out of Wisconsin and that area at one point, in Minnesota, and then eventually they invaded westward. So they were an invader too. So, but the problem we have now, of course, is that these are competing interests. I think everybody's going, oh, this is a big cash cow, because they know for a fact they didn't control all the lands. Nobody ever really controlled lands like a military force with borders and all that. There was trading trails, there was villages, there was different languages and dialects. We'll agree to that. But there wasn't an actual boundaries that you could see outside of some ownership title in areas that were defined by oral tradition and spaces. So like, hey, this was my fishing rock. It was my family's fishing rock for generations.
Yeah.
And thus it's been inherited
We
through
love our
generations
rock.
on my fishing rocks, right? And that's a big thing I know from the Fraser Canyon, because they had family names tied to various fishing spots, and it was their spot. You know, until the Cowichan would come up like Viking raiders and attack all the villagers up there, taking their salmon and taking slaves and all that kind of stuff. And that was just
we're hearing a lot about that right now.
but I think the craziness of all of this is EB is, I believe, 100% was brought into British Columbia. He's a carpetbagger from Ontario, dumped in here to demolish British Columbia. And this guy should be arrested, in my book. The guy has got the CCP influence all over him. His tightest inner circle of advisors are connected to the Chinese Communist Party. We've had the RCMP, we have CSIS, we've got guys like Sam Cooper who have been writing this religiously, and nobody in Canada is doing a damn thing. Where are the police? Where is CSIS? This guy should be up on charges. He should be removed as a traitor to the country. If John A. Macdonald was alive today, most of these people in power today would be seeing a noose, just like they did to any traitors of the country back then. If you were a traitor, you would see that. And that's where we can get into what Trump is talking about. Recent people in the U.S. that are trying to break that, insurrectionists that are trying to break away. But that's what I'm saying. If you're foreign influenced and you're acting in the interests of a foreign government, well, that means you are a traitor by definition.
Correct.
So EB has been alleged to be highly connected to the CCP. And I think all of this is tied to the WF as well, because these asset managers, they know if you want to get control, you divide all the people, you remove the democratic levers of getting consent of the governed through. But to bypass that, all you have to say is you don't own the land. You don't have a right to make a decision on it anymore. We can now go make deals with puppet Indigenous leaders. We can grease their palms. We own all the management and control of those resource big projects. We make the deal with the First Nations. Meanwhile, our union pension fund assholes from the public service get all the wealth that's generated from that as well through their BlackRock, Brookfields, and all the other big asset managers. Yeah. And guess what? You'll own nothing, and you'll be happy because you'll get good jobs, they're saying. You'll be able to work for them. They're the new lords, the new nobles that own the land and control the land, while as I said, they'll grease the palms of the puppet leaders of the Indigenous people. Yet the Indigenous grassroots people will see nothing. The non-Indigenous people of British Columbia will see nothing, but will be supposedly happy and own nothing. So that's where this is all headed. It is a problem in Canada. We are infected with this crap. And at some point, I've seen people writing from the U.S. not understanding if this was the United States to this level, there would be an armed insurrection, but it wouldn't be an insurrection. It'd be patriots taking their country back. That's the difference. People won't tolerate it. But Canada, we've become lazy, complacent, but now you're on the precipice of losing your homes. When you start losing your homes, that's where this
might be the linchpin that finally causes something to happen now, because I guess it's added to the Supreme Court, right? All these
it's garbage. What this is going to head to is a rent scheme. So essentially what you will have is a two-tiered tax system. Your property taxes will now come with a surcharge where you're going to be paying a lease rate to the First Nations people of that area to have a home where you reside. So they're going to say, no, we're not going to take away your fee simple, but you got to pay us the juice to be there. So essentially, you don't really own it. You're kind of leasing the land, but we'll honor your fee simple. But because our title supersedes your title, you need to give us a piece of the action. So the municipalities, what's going to happen is your tax rates are going to double on your property taxes. It's going to pay off these chiefs. They're going to get rich. Meanwhile, their people are not. And you're going to see these new lords that are going to be formed. And as I said, they'll be making these deals with the big asset managers to build housing, to build all this stuff. And it will be long-term lease agreements on new properties. It will be extra for those that have fee simple. You'll either be driven out because you're too expensive, and you'll have to go to renting. And we might start to see what they're talking about the U.S. The only way the banks will fund any of that is they might have to give these generational mortgages that you can port to anywhere. But that's the plan towards you'll own nothing and be happy.
Because in the prairies, it was different. There's Treaty 4, Treaty 6, Treaty 10, Treaty 9. They've got
but they're trying to open it all up. That's the problem. They're trying to say these treaties were done in bad faith.
So they're saying those previous treaties are null and void. They want a do-over.
Oh, of course they do. They want a do-over right from coast to coast. You see half of Quebec now in the northern part of Quebec is all...
again wasn't a that's a non-treaty era. So far, there was no treaty there.
Yeah.
That's why
this all comes down to one thing: Britain's good graces to defend the Indigenous people from being slaughtered by what was happening in the U.S. And the U.S. had a conquest perspective to dealing with Native peoples, where in Canada, the British said, no, we want to trade with them. They have a traditional trading alliance with the Indigenous people of Canada, going back to Rupert's Land. This is all part of that. There was a defense of the Indigenous people. Plus, Indigenous people were allies against the Americans in a lot of the Revolutionary War aspects, War of 1812. And, so you'll see that the Brits were behind that, defending them. So we're seeing the fallout of this. The problem we're having now is that we essentially need to do one thing. We either, if you expropriate the land like you're expropriating a highway, that's essentially what's going to need to be done. If you're going to come to an agreement, the problem is you got to get rid of this UN crap. This is your WF, China, Russia. We had Middle Eastern countries voting on UN DRIPA, which is basically the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous Peoples' rights, essentially giving them rights over our country that they don't have to honor in their own countries. And that's the problem. When you allow China to vote on your own national security in this way, there's a problem. And when your politicians introduce their version and adopt it, and that's what Eby did. He adopted it into law into British Columbia. And it was unnecessary because we already had laws that stated that DRIPA and UN DRIPA by the courts had said we do not need to follow it. We have our own course to do that. Like you do incremental treaty making like they used to do, like they did with the Nishka, or they did with the seashell ban. And they did
Canada, so Canada becomes this festering communist shithole. Is Trump and JD going to allow this to sit on their border, some absolute outpost for the globalists? Because that's Canada's, America's just, going on national, waving the flag, stars and stripes forever. Canada's doing the sickle, hammer and sickle routine. So,
well, it's this horrendous toxic mix between utilizing the useful idiots within the socialist regime side of our country and their woke nonsense that's been infected into the corporate culture as well, and using that a way to monopolize it for their corporate interests as well. So this is really an alliance similar more to Nazi Germany than it would be to old hammer and sickle Russia, because in this case, the corporations still remain private, but they're allied now and under the control of the party state.
Yeah, they sure are.
That is more like Nazi Germany. That's more like China today,
National
China, and
socialism.
I think they're closer to fascism than they are communism, but they're both highly aligned to each other. And I know all the communists and
Authoritarian.
socialists like, no, he's a right winger. No, socialism. He came from your side of the fence, folks. You can argue all you want, but
Sorry there, commies.
yeah. Old Uncle Joe Stalin, remember he had an alliance with Hitler and they both invaded Poland, one from one side and the other. They were part of it. Maybe the biggest mistake we ever did, and I agree with Patton on this, is we should have never funded Stalin. I know it took a lot of pressure. They took a lot of bodies to take the heat with their war with Hitler.
Russia.
But the point is that we just opened up another beast that infected so much of our countries around, and China got infected by it. And China was an ally up into World War II.
Correct.
And China could have been a great free nation.
That guy Shek was our guy. It was a good.
So now, next thing you know, you got Mao. You've basically Joseph Stalin on steroids. Both of them murderous tyrants, and continue to this day. We're seeing the problems with that. It's infected into our academia. It's affected our school systems, our public institutions, our political class. This woke DEI nonsense, people call it cultural Marxism, but it's just Marxism. It's created to divide. They replaced our national flags with flags that are not ours at all. And you see now we're getting painted rainbow places all over the place. And it's not about gay rights or LGBTQ alphabet rights. It has nothing to do with that. These are division lines created to create further division within your society, to break it down so that they can come in and disrupt our Western civilization, our classic liberal rights systems into a managed. That's what Soviets means. They're facilitators. That's what a Soviet is. They facilitate the management of the state. And that way they create the divisions and manage those divisions to maintain power. But it's now allied to the corporate state because they've taken it over through their union activism, through their investments into these big asset management funds. So it is an unholy alliance. Unholy alliance, and it's a very powerful bloc to beat. And that's what Trump's up against in the U.S., and he's defeating them. And he's getting the Larry Finks and the Brookfields, which is Mark Carney. It will be interesting to see what happens to Mark Carney when the Epstein files get bigger and bigger and out in front of everybody, because he is connected to Larry Summers, and that's a big Epstein guy. And there's photos with him and Ghislaine Maxwell and his wife hanging out like a park picnic, just being buddies.
Yeah. That'd be great. Or Trudeau himself, maybe Justin got rolled up and all that. Who knows, right?
Well, Trudeau used to take flights down to the Caribbean all the time. And
I know he met John Kerry before Trump got elected in order to run a little interference with Canada, joining forces with the Dems to try and sabotage Trump. I know that happened. All right, Blake, we talked about treason a little while back in the course of conversation. Gunther Eagleman from the United States of America writes, everyone in this video should be in jail right now. Let's get full volume and let's hear what these characters have to say.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
The Army,
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
All right. So there's the commentary. Blake, thoughts on what you just witnessed? What is the message, and why are they giving this message?
Creepy deep staters who have political positions are part of the Podesta plan to drive their last-ditch effort. They're being defunded at all levels by Trump's actions to get rid of their little funding cells that have been, and they're on the retreat. But this is part of that Podesta plan. The Podesta plan is the Plan C final solution to create American civil war. They did it with a movie where they created their Western Alliance. And it's not any joke that Newsom refers to the Western Alliance in one of his speeches recently. These guys want a civil war. They're trying to create a civil war. They're Democrats. That's their history. That is their core identity. Their identity was to destroy the Constitution. They're the ones who were the Confederates in the last Civil War. The Democrats ran the Confederacy. They are the Confederacy. They're the ones that assassinated Lincoln. They were all Democrats, and they continue to do that. What Trump needs to look at is a new Reconstruction era part 2. Defeat these guys once and for all politically. We don't need to fire a single bullet, but these guys are trying to generate an insurrection within the military force, which essentially, the only thing you listen to what they're saying, there's a spin on it. You don't need to follow illegal orders. But who defines the illegal orders? Well, there is rules that every military person trained on Earth, pretty much, unless you're from a dictatorial state, but for the most part in the Western world, there's certain orders you're not allowed to do. Like you can't go massacre civilians purposely. You can't line them up and shoot them and genocidal. You can reject those orders 100%. But if there is the president has the right to defend the United States to all enemies, both foreign and domestic. He has a right to defend it. So if you are going to rise up and you are going to create an insurrection in the United States, then he has a right to put that down and put an end to it quickly. And so, have right at it, Democrats. You guys are trying to drive a civil war because you got nothing left. You've got nothing left. So if you're trying to defend a bureaucracy that's been corrupt and the swamp is now being drained, you got to stop it. And you got to stop those guys. And that's what's happening. And that's what I think they're desperate. I think you're watching really, and I said this before, you're watching these deep staters are literally in their bunker moment. And again, a reference to World War II, they're literally going to be throwing the children and the old people out front to fight their last battles here. And there was a great speech I heard where a military veteran was basically telling these guys, and a message to the military forces is that you have a responsibility to listen to your commander in chief. Don't allow these guys to say, they're basically saying, take control of the ship. What, to the Navy? What, if you're a captain, insurrect and break away and refuse to follow orders when you are under the direction of the commander in chief who's been elected into that position? It's insane. It really is insane. But should these guys be charged with treason? They should at the very least lose their positions as representatives if that's what they're promoting. But I know how they're going to spin it. And everybody knows that they had a battalion of lawyers go through it all in their speech to make sure that what they're saying couldn't get them in trouble by just simply saying you don't have to follow illegal orders. There's the magic but it's spun, right? That's the thing. All they need is, and this was the warning I heard that veteran say this morning. I was listening to him while I was getting ready this morning and he just basically said they will drop you when you create the problem and you're standing in the way of lawful orders by the president. You're the person who's going to lose everything. You're going to lose your entire career. You're going to lose everything. And those guys, nothing's going to happen to them. You'll forget you tomorrow. You're just cannon fodder for political operatives within the deep state to try and create chaos. That's all they're doing.
Interesting. Trump's response was harsh. They're all crying, woe is me over this. To me, what they are advocating is absolutely seditious.
Yep.
It's an insurrection to go against the administration because they can they're justifying it by framing that the president is illegal. However, Trump has just won something like 24 in a row Supreme Court judgments in his favor. The law is on the side of the president. As his press secretary said, this issue came up. She says nothing the president has done is illegal or been deemed illegal. This is an interesting take. A lot of people are thinking this. Let me take a quick look, make sure it's big enough. Yeah, here you go. I find this interesting, and I'll make it even that much bigger. Why would the Dems urge military to not follow orders? That was my question. Do they anticipate military tribunals? The military used to round up the deep state. And then the president, make this small so we can get all in one shot. This was put out on November 20th, right? So just yesterday, Truth Social. It's called seditious behavior, what we saw with those former CIA military people. It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Seditious behavior, highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. President Donald John Trump. So, really strong language from the president. What do you think, Blake? Do you think there's any hope in hell that we're going to see military tribunals? And you know where I first heard the talk about military tribunals ultimately being the case when you have a corrupt judiciary, when we're seeing all the illegal lawfare working against Trump. Some things are going to be required to move into that area, the military, the final recourse. And maybe the Dems see the writing on the wall. Maybe that's what precipitated this call, because they know it's the military that's going to be mobilized against these treasonous factions, and military tribunals coming, because that's the price of treason. That's the arena where treason is going to be dealt with. What do you think about that thought?
Oh, I think it's bang on. I think that's part of it. And I think the second part of that is that they are trying to rile up ground troops, being, the Antifa types and their black, black shirts, we used to call them brown shirts, fascists, but the black shirts in the streets, as they ramp up violence in the streets. That's what they're also talking about, because the Podesta plan is to create massive, violent response to these policies that are
what did we see
Trump.
Trump do? What did we see Trump
send
do?
in troops, send in the National Guard, right?
He's creating what's called emergency 500-man strong response teams in key cities throughout the Republic.
This is
that's happening. That already has been out. That is a reality right now. So what that means, Blake, is I believe this, quote, Podesta plan, once they activate these sleeper cells, these discontents to create mayhem and chaos in the streets, it's going to be snuffed out very quickly, because Trump's got the remedy in the form of these quick response units. It's going to smother out the flames of rebellion very quickly. But it seems like Trump's aware of this Podesta plan.
He is. It's out there now. It's being exposed by a lot of people on who have been in the know for a long time and have known about the Podesta plan. And the Podesta plan was all part of the whole, because he works for the Clintons and the Obamas, and he's all part of that Democratic machine to create what began in 2016 with Trump. It's all been part of the plan. First, it was to try to destroy the person, but when you can't destroy the person, they tried to destroy the movement. We had January 6th. They can't destroy the movement.
No.
It gets power again. And they're losing on all fronts. What is their final solution? We got to create mass insanity in the streets, which is basically violence in the streets, which they're going to define as mainly peaceful protesters. And they're setting the stage that when these violent protesters are burning cities down, murdering people,
it's
destroying things,
illegal.
because they're saying they're protesters, and you, military, you need to stand down when Trump tells you to go in to put those people down.
Right,
that's what they're saying.
Illegal, yeah.
So the Podesta plan is to create a civil war, and they're going to cause destruction. And if at the very least, it's all they need is a Kent State moment. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
They're looking for some soldiers to kill some protesters, quote unquote, that would destroy or derail the MAGA movement.
Yeah.
And that's so Trump, I'm sure, is 100% aware of that. They have no intent to go and start shooting people, and they haven't. They haven't shot a soul. And if anybody pulls a gun on them, they have a right to defend themselves. But so far, they haven't done anything like that. But I think they're saying we're getting ready to ramp up into 2026 because they got the midterms coming. They want to show that Trump can't control the chaos in the streets, just like they did in 2020. They did the same thing then. That was orchestrated in my books. The whole BLM riots was all orchestrated to make sure Trump would not win the 2020 elections. They're going to do it again in 2026. And they're doing this to tell the military to stand down, allow the people of America is their kind of thing to do their wild rip up protests, which are not the people of America. These are paid agitators. These are people who are against the U.S. Constitution. They're not peacefully protesting. They are there to cause chaos in the streets. And these are the shock troops on the ground that Trump has a full right to defend America against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And a domestic enemy is a true insurrectionist, or as you could, seditious governments like Newsom talking about a Western alliance. That's the stuff to watch out for. But I think they're all amping up the language to create violence in the street. That's what they're doing.
Important comments, Blake. I think, Cristobal, I think that's exactly right. That's the plan. I don't think they're going to succeed in it. We'll end the show on this question. I'll give it right back to you. I'll throw my 2 cents in. Do you guys think the long-term planning of the attempt at radical societal change was purposely aligned with the decline of the baby boom generation, usher in a new world order once the old guard is gone? Well, certainly it makes it easier. We're a big hindrance to them. Because we're the old, we are the old guard, traditional values. But in fairness, a lot of the impetus for Canada, at least we're seeing in the Canadian context, is a lot of the elbows up crowd are well over 50. It's the boomers that are enabling and giving power. It's actually Gen Z and the other younger generations that are fighting it. So tragically, reluctantly, I have to put my hand up as guilty as belonging to the boomer crowd. I'm a baby boomer born in the 1950s. And so we were the ones with free love and the hippies and all that stuff. But that quickly turned into out and out communism. As Archie Bunker once said, anyone that lives on a commune is a communist. And the old man was right. Blake, your thought for Pat's question.
100% again correct. It is, but it's a different reason, in my opinion. My rationale behind it is that since the boomer generation was the largest generation blob demographically that had a significant impact on our GDP and growth, basically our countries grew to massive prosperity because there was a massive group of children in the 50s, massive group of teenagers in the 60s, massive group of in the 70s as they all hit the workforce and grew from there. And we saw every aspect of our society be defined around the moving through the era of the baby boomer generation. All products and services, real estate booms, lending, banking, everything has been tied to that, their move through society. Now, their parents, of course, came out of the Depression era and earlier, and they were considered the greatest generation because they're the ones that fought World War I and World War II. They saw the stock market crash in 29, so they were far more conservative with their money, where the boomers were seen as much more liberal with their money, and we create massive debts, massive expectations of wealth that was generated on the fiat currencies being printed. But the problem is that after that, I'm from Gen X, and we're a tiny demographic. I mean, I was going into empty schools, but I know we're kind of getting overtime here. But I'll just make a point on this, is that demographically, we were dropping in numbers, and that the system has been built to support, through its support, such as like public pension plans, healthcare plans, and all the freebies that were created during the boomer generation, those unfunded liabilities are so top heavy. As soon as the boomers start dying off en masse, there's no population to support those systems or the debt that has been created.
Our newcomers will do it.
So I believe that all of this is connected to the demographic bomb, we call it. We knew it from the 1990s, yet the lefties were all saying, we're in a massive world of overpopulation. Everybody is collapsing now in population worldwide. China is in a hellscape drop because they did the one-child policy. Well, guess what they all did?
Girls.
They killed all the girls, and because the men were the ones considered to produce revenue and support the family, and now they're in a massive decline.
China, bad call. Girls is fun.
Yeah. I think there's like 2 countries in the world that are actually in massive net growth still, and that's India and I think another one. But India has now become the country in which Canada has been drawing off of to resupply its population. Which is what JD Vance is pointing to, is that it's a desperate act is what we're seeing here, a desperate act to maintain the economic system that is going to be in a free fall. So they want to control the free fall and the demolition. And that's, I think, was part of this whole process is own nothing and be happy because somebody's got to pay back these central bankers who printed all this money. Otherwise, nobody will respect the central bankers. They'll lose power, and then we have anarchy. That's kind of what they're worried about.
Yeah. So great question, Pat. Thanks for being here, everybody. We did a great. It was good. It was a lot of fun, man. Blake, thanks so much for being here. Always. We're going to be back on Tuesday. Did we get you Tuesday, Blake?
Yeah.
You're always traveling. All right. Well, Lord knows what's going to happen between now and then. We say the same thing because so much is going on. But deep state, no treason against legally law-abiding President Trump. We love him. Thumbs up on the program. Subscribe, please, and share the video with your friends and colleagues. And tell Rachel and Blake love you deeply. All right. That'll do it. And Patreons, today we got a show.